Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well. Let's talk about something that most of us are subjected to when we break up. Whether she leaves us, or it's a date you go on and it doesn't pan out, or you guys just find you're not compatible enough, or you've been together and you break up, somehow one of you breaks up. In this case, we're talking about from boy's point of view, and we are mostly focusing on when the girl leaves or initiates the breakup. Why is it that it's so painful to you? Even though there's so many other women out there, one better than the other one, magnificent, amazing women out there, but you're so hooked and focused, zoomed on that very one that you went on a date, or the very one that you've been in a relationship with, or you're infatuated with, or you're in love with, so to speak. Because we all know love doesn't happen right at the first sight, even though it sounds and seems like it is, but we all know that's lust. That's not love. So why is it that it's so difficult for you to move on? Well, we've discussed this in many other videos on my YouTube channel, The One Point. T-H-E, next word O-N-E, next word P-O-I-N-T. The One Point. Over 3,000 videos we have on that channel that you can explore and find answers to your questions, whether it's about relationships or OCD and OCD subsets. You'll find what you're looking for, most probably. Now, getting back to what we were talking about, the problem is that you seem to think the one that just broke up with you was the only one that was qualified enough for you to bond with or to build something together. And why is that? Well, is it that she was so amazingly perfect, even though in some cases you haven't even started a relationship with? You just met someone. Or you've been in a relationship, but really she's not really that amazing. Nobody is. But somehow you think she's the only one in the world for you, especially when she breaks up. So why is that? Is she really that amazing that she has accomplished so much in her life? She's fed the elderly, healed the sick, fed the children. She's so compassionate and have made the world a better place to be. Has she accomplished so much that she's so amazing? And on top of it, aesthetically and physically, is exactly what you've been looking for? Or is there something else that has made you feel she's the only one and you can't go on without her? You gotta have her back. Why do you want to have her back? Even though you know it didn't work and she doesn't approve of being in this relationship. For one reason or another. Well, you think you're in love with her. But in fact, you're not in love with her. It seems like you are. But you're in love with your desire. You're in love to fulfill your desire with pleasure. So in other words, you wish to comply to what your desire seeks by providing pleasure for that particular desire, for that particular topic, whatever it may be. Maybe you're hooked on a sport, or you love to play tennis all the time, or is it chess that you love? A certain kind of a desire that brings you pleasure. Why? Because that pleasure causes the brain to secrete dopamine. And dopamine is addictive. So now you're seeking her back because her being in your life, on top and in addition to all the memories and good values and good things that you remember of that relationship, tantalizing or appetizing or palatable experiences, but on top of it, it is the fact that through those experiences, your brain secreted dopamine and you're now addicted to this brand of dopamine. Just like drugs, that somebody is addicted to it, is not really addicted to the drug itself, is addicted to the dopamine that the drug induces and causes the brain to secrete. And dopamine itself is addictive, so you want more and more of it. So when you're somewhat infatuated and in lust with that woman, which you think it's love, but it's lust. This lust is connected to your hormones and your programming and your genes, and it automatically seeks that in that very moment. It's an immediate need. So the patience is not really playing a part in it. You just want to fulfill your desire with pleasure, and you want it at that very moment. And because there's nobody else lined up and you don't know anybody else that is qualified enough, you think that's the only one that you can imagine in your virtual world, that's the only possibility. And being the only possibility and your need to fulfill the desire for pleasure, you kind of panic or you have anxiety and you feel, in order to feel your balance, you got to have her back. But let's really examine what is it that really is playing behind the scene that you really want her back. Well, as you know, any desire that you want to fulfill brings you pleasure, and because of that pleasure, the brain secretes dopamine. And when you continue this hard and constantly for a long time, let's say someone is on a drug and continues stimulating these synaptic neurons for getting that dopamine, when these synaptic neurons are stimulated hard and long enough, they usually die. When these synaptic neurons are stimulated hard and long enough, they die. And because they want to survive, they have a mechanism to save them from dying. That's called down-regulator. So when someone is using a drug so much, or a pleasure of some kind, in this case, your infatuation with this woman that you want that love back, and you think it's the love, but it's a lust, which leads to fulfilling your desire with pleasure, which leads to dopamine, and dopamine is addictive, and therefore you want more of that dopamine because you're not addicted to that result, to that dopamine. But when this continues, the synaptic neurons that are actually responsible for absorbing that stimulation, that stimulant, and secreting, causing dopamine to be secreted, they realize that if this continues, they'll die. In order to survive, they have an inner mechanism that is called down-regulator. Down-regulator means that they will downsize the number of neurons available to be stimulated with this function, with this pleasure, in order to secrete less of a dopamine, so there would be less neurons available, and therefore they will survive without being stimulated so much. So for you to get the same feeling, same results, and same stimulation as you did before, you now have to think about this girl more in order to get the same kind of a result with the same amount of dopamine. So when you do that, just like the drug, when you keep using a drug, the down regulator comes in the picture, reduces the number of neurons that could be stimulated so they could survive, but at the same time you want the same high, so you increase the amount of drug that you're using to get the same high. The same thing with this situation with the girl. You don't get that satisfaction, so you keep thinking of her more and long enough. And the more you think of her, the thinking of this beautiful, amazing situation will secrete more dopamine. So again, the synaptic neurons are stimulated, they will downgrade for the second time. So you want the same results and you start thinking more and more. And again, you get the same kind of a hit and they downregulate again. They keep reducing the number of neurons that could be stimulated to save themselves, but in return, you become more and more in tune and focused to get the same high, so you keep thinking more of it. That's why you can't get rid of it. You constantly want the same results and you can't get it because this down-regulating motion, like the drug, you constantly up the drug to get the same kind of a hit and same kind of a high, but it's down-regulating, less number of neurons available to be stimulated to the point that there's not much available because they want to survive, and you keep hitting it so high, and that's when you get addicted to that drug. And that's when you get addicted to thinking about this girl, wanting her so much that you can't even move on and get on with your life. So, it's not the girl. It's the actual feeling that you get from thinking of her, which results in pleasure, which results in dopamine, which results in you getting addicted to the dopamine, and continue this process until you have no way out other than realizing this, that there are a lot more girls out there. She wasn't the one, because if she was, you would still be with her. Therefore, cut it out and move on, and you'll be fine and happy, and you'll find bigger and better situations. And about that infatuation, that you actually feel something special about her. Are you sure it's really all about her? Or have you created an image of her in your mind about her? And you are falling for that perfect image due to the fact that your hormones and your infatuation and your desire to be with her being so urgent and momentary, mostly hitting the cylinders on the sexuality and on the desire for intimacy, and therefore it seems like it's such an urgent thing, and you create an amazing, fantastic, perfect image of her, of the person that you're dating or the person that you're in a relationship with, and you fall in love with that perfect image that you created of her, about her, in your mind. Not in actuality about her. You don't fall in lust with her. You're falling in lust with her as an actor of the image you have created of her, about her, in your mind. And that perfect image is something that you're actually desiring, and you're building more and more excellent characteristics about her for that image. And lo and behold, before you know it, you think that image that you've created of her in your mind is her, the person, the very person that you're sitting in front or you're interacting with during that relationship. But you got to come out of it and realize that you're falling in lust with an image you've created rather than the actuality of her, by recognizing her real qualities, what she brings to the table, what she's offering to this relationship, and what her real self as a human being is, not that perfect image you have created of her, catering toward your needs, your desire, your lust, and your perfect mate that you have in mind. So clearly understanding this phenomenon, this scientific approach to understanding what is really happening when you feel she's the only one, helps you to be able to see it's not that really what you think is actuality and is the truth and fact about her. It's just the fact that you want to fulfill your desire for pleasure, which leads to what we just talked about, and that there is in fact other women more compatible with you and better chances and more desirable situations are out there. All you have to do is use this knowledge to control your urges to continue this addictive situations that you've fallen into, and move on to exploring the universe and other opportunities that are out there, and find many other wonderful and amazing women, and see if you can get to know each other and bond on the consciousness level where love takes place. I hope that will be helpful to you in order to move on with your life and find all the balance that you're looking for and the happiness once more and every time if things don't work out. I'll talk to you soon.